All right, let's do this. Spencer,
And
welcome to Anything Goes.
Good to be here.
So I am so excited to have you on. For those that don't know, obviously we've just done your introduction. People have already gotten to know you a little bit. But I have known this man and Morg through association, actually, because he's been with me the entire time since I was 18. And we, like when Morgs and I talk about guests that we want on this podcast to challenge the status quo, to push the boundaries, to have some humor and fun, we were like, Spence, we have to get Spence. Because of just I call you the savant of business, finance, and taxation. Just so you know. Yeah. Just to like inflate that head. But I think you are amazing at what you do. I've watched you since I was 18. And so, yeah, we're excited to have you on just to help people learn and get some financial literacy and have a sexy conversation about money with an accountant.
So Spencer, you probably, as an accountant, I don't know if you get a lot of requests for podcasts.
No.
I didn't think so. So what we do just to help people get to know the person rather than the accountant or the profession is we just got a bunch of like fast fire 5 questions for you to answer as well. So I'll go first. If you could have anyone at a dinner party, who would it be?
Oh, there's so many people. I would, heaps. I would think maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's lived a life and the things that he's achieved, and I think he'd be fun too. I think he'd be a fun dinner guest. Probably have a few beers, and he's got a lot of stories, I imagine.
Can you do it? Can you do an Arnie impersonation?
I'd be Bart.
I'm Bart. You know what? That was so quick. That was like you were.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper. You were so good. I thought you'd be like, oh no.
I listened to his book recently. I listened to a lot of Audible, and I listened to his book, and just amazing. His story, from starting a construction company, being Mr. Universe, then being a movie star, being the governor, and he's made a lot of mistakes along the way too, which everyone knows about. But he's a pretty amazing fella. So
I'm gonna listen to. Such a book. I have to read the book, so I'm gonna get that book.
Yeah, it was a good book. It's definitely a good book.
Yeah. Okay, Spence, favorite cuisine?
Oh, I would say I'm plant-based, so I love Italian, love Indian, but I'd say Italian, like fresh Italian. Can't go wrong. I love bread.
Yes.
Plant-based diet for the last year, and even before that, I was basically vegetarian. And my whole family was plant-based. So
I was going to say, Asha, is your wife? Did that come from your wife, or was that?
Yeah, definitely. She was a strong influence in it. That's for sure.
We always are.
I was the only one who would order the meat would go out, and so it's just a matter of stopping that, and many reasons why I have. So
Good on you.
It's good.
Okay.
I cop a bit of flack for it, But,
we've got so many vegan friends, pescatarian friends, flexitarian friends. We love everybody.
I said we gave, it was just for our own just personal curiosity, gave a vegan diet to go for like 30 days. And I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was all right. And I sort of came out with the biggest barrier, I thought, to people going on a plant-based diet were the people that are hard out advocating for it. They just, I don't know, they kind of give it like a weird vibe and a weird cliche around it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's easy for me because Ash does all the planning, we eat awesome food at home. Some food. And then when you go out, it's getting easier. Some places have got no idea still, but majority of them understand,
Yeah.
And any good restaurant can cook you up an awesome pasta without any dairy in it, and that awesome pasta.
Come to the Gold Coast, they nail it. Okay.
Yeah.
Best piece. I'm actually super.
This is my question. You're jumping in. You did cuisine. All right.
Go.
If I don't cut her off, Spence, I don't get a word in. So I gotta put a stake in the ground and claim it's mine. Best piece of advice you've ever been given, and I'm sure you've got some great ones too.
Yeah, my grandma, my dad, my mum, like my family are a big influence in my life, and good role models. So they give plenty of advice, but probably one was my late business partner. He and that was it was probably bite off more than you can chew, and chew like crazy. Another word, not crazy.
I was going to say he would have said another word.
And I think that one stuck with me, and I've used, I think that stuck with me. It's like, have the confidence and conviction and to be able to, put yourself out there, and put yourself into situations, and you have the confidence you can pull it off, you know. And I think he told me that when I was in my early 20s, and there I am as an early 20-year-old sitting in a business meeting giving advice to a businessman who's taking advice from a young 20-year-old, you know. And that was you know, and he encouraged me to say, yeah, you know more than most people because of all the study you've done and all your life experiences. So, you know, bite off more you can chew and chew like hell. So
I love that. I'm going to actually take that one on. We've had quite a lot of people give us amazing advice, but I'm like, and I loved Peter. So yeah, that's going to be my new one.
And he always, you know, you just throw people in the deep end and they'll swim, you know, give them the opportunity. And if, you know, you support them and they'll pull through. So rather than, you know, giving everyone the opportunity to push themselves. So yeah, that was a really good one. And I've always lived by that. And with my team, I do the same, put them in situations, so give them support, put them in situations where they can grow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right.
Advice.
I love
that
one.
one.
Yeah, it's like taken, stolen.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm excited to hear this. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, I loved because I grew up in Papua New Guinea and also in Africa.
What?
And I did all my school, and I was born on a farm, so I've always loved animals. So I always wanted to be something to do with animals. It was either a zoologist, a vet, and I was like, I never got good grades, so I couldn't be a vet. And then I didn't really want to be doing surgery on animals. I just loved, you know, when I was a kid, just loved being around animals. So that's what I want to do is work with animals. So then I started doing a degree in science and in business. And I thought, hang on, you know, as I got older, I was like, hang on, went more towards business. More towards, I needed to understand what an accountant did. Everyone talked about their accountants. So yeah, and I just,
Zoologist, so different. It's funny because the last guest, Joel Brown, that we just had on the podcast, he wanted to be a zoologist as well.
Yeah, cool. I think, you know, the animals are amazing. So it's just a matter of how do you have to have such a strong passion with how do you make a living.
Yeah.
So, you know, and when commercial reality kicks in, take out, as you grow up, so well, hang on, how am I gonna? What am I gonna do? Unless you're really, really, really passionate about it, you'll find a way. But I obviously wasn't that passionate about it.
Yeah. Money.
But I had a pet monkey that we got. I had a little Max. He was a vervet monkey. I always had a crocodile. Stayed at a croc farm. We always had plenty of pets and around since I was a little kid. So
how cool would it be to have a pet monkey as a kid?
I know.
Yeah, it was certainly taught me responsibility. It's like having a baby. It's full on. So it's not as fun as you think. It's like having a baby.
They can be little savages too, can't they?
Oh yeah, if they don't get their way, they attack.
like babies.
The more, I think, especially the vervet, they're not the smartest monkey, so they got a little monkey brain. So if they don't get their way, we can't control their emotions. They're into it. So,
Love it.
All right, and our last question before we really kick this off. What's your superpower?
Oh, superpower.
Business.
So I even have one. I would probably say connecting with people and just because, to grow a business or to have clients, you need to be able to connect with and understand people from all walks of life. And I think that also came from my background growing up in Papua New Guinea and Zambia and having to change school, going to boarding school, multiple boarding schools. You need to be able to get along with people, connect with people. And I think that made I suppose it's in my business, I can connect with people. It's a matter of, it's networking, let's say, but I don't know if that word networking. It's getting along with people.
Yeah.
And maybe a bit of resilience too.
Yeah.
Roll with the punches. That's life and that's business, and then you just got to keep swinging.
I love that you just said that though as your superpower, and it's such a we never know how it's going to go or where the conversation's going to flow. But it's funny because I had said to Morgan off recording and off the mic, I said, when I think of Spence, I was 18 and I remember thinking he was like the mayor of Perth because he knew, I felt like he knew, and you did, everybody.
Yeah. I get given crap by actually Chris at work here because I so many people that I know, and he's like, oh, you probably know that person, don't you? You probably know that person. But that's the thing. It's just talking to people, saying hello to people, getting to know people, paying attention,
That's what I was going to ask you though. So being that king connector, and you are, so I'm like, I love that you said that's your superpower, because I'd said that to Morgan. I said, Spence just knew everybody. He was such an amazing connector. What do you then say? I mean, you said it, say hello, be interested. What's like the top tip you would say? Because your network is your net worth.
Yeah, I would say following through, like trying to connect people. I think that's what it is. So if you can connect someone who they'll get along, they'll be friends, or they've got business interests that aligns, connect them, send an email, do an intro, give them a call, say, I want you to meet this person. And it takes a little bit of time out of your day, but in the end, it pays dividends. And I've just always done it, not for any other reason. It's just a matter of, well, that's life. It's about who you know, not what you know. And I think, making sure you're always connecting people and it comes back to you.
Well, I think that's so true. I think what we probably didn't mention at the start of this was that Anna used to work for you.
I think I did.
And it was, did you? I don't know if we did. You'll probably say it's probably said in the introduction, but it was so funny because obviously the people that she met through working through you was ultimately what allowed her to move into politics.
Absolutely.
That's my story. I always say to people, like, I get interviewed and everyone wants to always know how I got into federal politics. And I say it was the connection from my very first job in an accounting firm where you and Pete had said, you've got the network and the connection. And it was the clients at Acute at a networking event that had dropped my name to this federal member of parliament a couple of times as this young girl looking for another job. And and that's how I got into politics.
Absolutely. And I think it also came down to your personality. And like, you can have, we've had plenty of receptionists over the time and an admin, and you sit out the front and you talk to everyone and pay, be interested in anyone who walked through the door, with your bubbly personality. We have receptionists in the past who don't like to talk, who don't pay any attention, don't acknowledge anybody.
Yeah.
They don't get anywhere because they don't put themselves out there. They're not interested in other people, and maybe they wonder why they don't actually grow. It's like because you don't talk, you don't pay attention, show interest in other people.
Well, it's that whole thing about be interested, not interesting. As well, and having genuine curiosity and asking questions and getting to know people and opens up a lot of doors and opportunities as well that you otherwise wouldn't have had.
Absolutely. Just having the confidence just to say hello and how are you going? What are you up to? What do you do for a living? Where do you live? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
It just breaks down all the barriers.
It's hard for a lot of people because
did you have a pet monkey?
Yeah.
But I think it's hard for a lot of people because, as children, they're raised to, speak when you're spoken to, don't talk to strangers, all that sort of stuff as well. So there's a bit of childhood programming that needs to be through there.
But it's all mindset. All right. So Spence, I want to go here because I honestly, I mean, I'm like, I say to people all the time, they're like, who's your accountant? I'm like, we've got the savant of business and tax and finance. I really think that about you because I've watched you and I would love to go, like we might go here as well, but I'd love to go into the story because I remember, anyway, I'm like, we will, of how you kind of became the director and the owner now of Acute. But you are our accountant. You are someone that I have, we were always going to circle back. So we've gone off and started in network marketing now. And we just refer everyone to you because you guys are the kings. But lots of people listen. So we've got network marketers that listen.
A lot of network marketers too,
business people that listen. We've got people that want to start businesses. We've got the king. So can you tell people he has got no idea the questions. We didn't give him questions before. But what would your top 3 pieces of advice be for anybody that wants to start business or be in business or have a business or is looking at business?
Yeah.
Hey, Spence, just before you do, mate, I might just, are you able to move a little bit closer towards Mike? That's all, just because I don't want people to miss out on this because I know it's going to be really good.
Good stuff. Well, I think, so I suppose having a passion for something would be, and doing the planning. So, I think, because like starting a business, what does that actually mean? Like there's so many different ways that you can earn money. And then what is a business? So you can have a business that's really a job because it needs your personal service, it needs the hours that you put in, or you can have something, there's the new age businesses these days, which are things are online where you can find a really good product and you can sell it and it's extremely scalable. So it's about what do you want to achieve? Like what is the business? And then doing a lot of the plan. I think slow down and plan it out. So I think that's a big one. And then I think surrounding yourself with successful people or people who can provide you like with a mentor. You don't have to pay for a mentor or a coach, and learning on other people's mistakes. So making sure you're running it past everyone. Like, don't keep it a secret. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm planning on doing. And trying to stress test it. Look at all the risks. Plan for worst case scenario as well. I think, because you've got to be realistic here. And I think then, surrounding yourself and getting the right advice, so getting, speaking with a good accountant, speaking with other successful business owners, ask for a bit of their time, go and speak to them, let them know what you're up to, get some advice, because, we've all got battle scars and happy to share them with others to make sure, learn from other people's mistakes. So, and then I think doing your planning, because it's all about cash flow is king, so making sure you've got the appropriate cash flow and the capital behind you. And is it going to be organic growth? So starting small and setting goals, having a vision, writing it down, write down your plan, write down what you want to achieve. And then measuring yourself against that.
I love it. And this is what I want people to understand. This is the biggest thing I always think I say in business. I know we're network marketing, so I don't call myself necessarily an entrepreneur because I think we don't carry the risk entrepreneurs do. We're so lucky that we choose it. But I always say that you imagine you're an accountant. Ultimately, you own the accounting firm. You're way more than just an accountant. But ultimately, I'm like, here you are as an accountant. I'm like, we could be speaking to a personal development coach right now, in my opinion. And I've always said to people, you have to have, so I want to pick out one of those things that you said, like the planning, and have a good accountant and obviously mentors and things like that. But I think that so many people, I don't know, what would you say the number one thing is where people fail in business?
Well, this is what I was going to say. I'd be really interested to see, like, what are the things like, and I'm sure you've had cases where you have sat down with a client and you're like, listen, don't do this. And they just go out and do it anyway. And I'm sure people repeat these common things, but.
Yeah, I think if someone's got a good business, where they would normally fail is taking their eye off the ball and trying to do different things, not focusing on their engine room. And then they put their engine room at risk because they try other things, which then blows up the engine room. So I always, there's always, you can do other, dream and aspire to do other things and pivot, but make sure you're looking after the main engine room, because you've done that successfully. It's producing the return. So keep focusing on that whilst you're doing other things, unless you're totally over it. But then maybe it's time to sell or transition out of that business before you try something else. So spreading yourself too thin, I see is an issue. Then with people with startup businesses, I think sometimes when it gets too hard, people quit, or they're not willing to pivot. So because maybe they're not talking to people, maybe they're not, they've tried one way and it's not working. So then they'll quit. It's not, and this is if you're trying to do something different outside the norm.
Yeah.
So, and then I think internally, like myself, why I became partner at an early age, obviously treating the business as if it was my own. I worked as if Acute was mine. I referred family, friends in, and was able to grow the business, all just getting a salary. But I treated it as if it was mine. So then I was offered to buy in because I think it was smart on Peter's behalf to say, offer me to buy in, because potentially I could have left after, I was there for 3 years. I was 27 and he offered me to buy half. And because potentially I could have left and taken the clients that I brought and people with me, which I wouldn't have done, but I think it was clever for him. But he took a risk. He's 15 years older than me, and to offer a 27-year-old to buy half of your business.
Company.
And then and then having the conviction to say yes, and go for it. Put your goalies on the line and go for it. Yeah, that's and that's another thing where I see people, and that's people who don't have the confidence, let's say, that they and that comes from their upbringing. I would say to not want to take that leap of faith and have the responsibility, because being a business owner, there's a lot of things you got to take care of. To make sure, compliance is a big one. That's why, when my role is a big one, because everyone, sure thing is death and taxes, and you've got to manage, you've got to manage your taxes. It's just something that you've got to pay the government. It's not,
no free money.
No free money. You got to try and minimize it at every single angle. There's clever ways you can minimize it. You can't avoid it, and you got to pay it. So it's just having the planning.
We see it so much in network marketing. I mean, just across the industry, where people
like free money.
Well, they go from being an employee and now they've got this income coming in, and they're like, well, then they get a tax bill. Well, what's tax? What's GST? Like,
And we're talking, I want to preface that by saying,
we're not talking small amounts here.
No, we're talking about leaders. So
Yeah,
we're talking about people like, you know, earning 6 figures or multiple 6 figures or, you know, close to 7 figures. And they don't even have a relationship. They might not even have an accountant, which is terrible. Like,
well, they've spent the money as well.
Yeah, you know, and that's not, there's no sustainability there. And that's a surefire for disaster, you know. And so anything we do, we've got to run, you know, anything you do, you've got to run and plan your cash flow and pay the government and then put the rest to work for you, whether you're putting it back in your business or you're making it work for you with passive investments.
Yeah.
You know, and I totally go, I see lots of tradies, I see lots of sole traders and even companies not putting the money aside. They're using it to grow their business, or they're using it for personal use instead of paying the tax man. And then I don't know where they think it's going to come from when the time the bill comes. Like, where are you going to pull it from? You've gone and spent it. You've bought a new car. You've gone on a holiday. You've, you know, and you haven't planned for it.
Yeah.
And then you're always playing catch up. Always playing catch up.
I remember even as a receptionist, so I always tell this story. Even yesterday, I was coaching and mentoring some youth on Zoom, and there was hundreds of them. And I had said to them how my first job, I said, you know, because people always ask me where my passion for entrepreneurship came. And I say Acute, like my very first job in an accounting firm, because as a receptionist, I used to stick the back of tax returns. So I learned about money because and I loved it. I loved flicking to the back because I'd look at employees and be like, 20 grand, 50 grand. And then I'd flip to the back of companies and be like, hundreds of thousands, 500,000, millions, 2 million, and be like, well, I want that. I don't want that. Yeah. But I remember as a receptionist taking the calls from people that stress business owners and company, like, because it's the norm, sadly, almost in business. This is why I wanted you on, because I'm like, we can start the conversation more about financial literacy for everybody. Imagine that the world changed, in my opinion. But playing catch up and not planning. So it's like, I think what you said, because I thought you'd be like, get a good accountant, but you're like, do what you're passionate about, because you have to want to get up and you know, go to bed late and get up early, but B, plan. And I'm going to say C, like, get a good accountant. Like, I'm putting that in there because I think, and I always say you should have a relationship. Like our mentor, he always says, David, he's like, I play golf with my, with my banker and, you know, I have my accountant over for dinner. And I'm like, if we lived in Perth, we'd 100% be like, Spence, come for dinner. I think you should have that relationship, in my opinion, with those important, like an accountant, a banker, a lawyer. So can we go there for me? And it's not like have a relationship with them, but what would you then say for these people that are listening? And let me tell you, Spence, we have lots of listeners who, especially during COVID, lots of network marketers, lots of business owners, lots of coaches, lots of just individuals, employees, that are stressed and maybe are like, fuck, I've been hiding from my taxes or like getting my finances in order. What would you say to them? Look, because I want people to get a good accountant. This is like, I'm really passionate about this.
Yeah.
So what's the number? Like, what are the 3 things people should look for when looking for a good accountant?
Yeah, I think first of all, you got to look at yourself and go, am I willing to take advice? And am I going to get my shit in the gear? Because, you know, accountants aren't magicians. It's a relationship and it's a 2-way relationship. Yeah. So you need to be willing to get help, and you're willing to do things to make sure your accountant can help you. So, and then a good accountant, I think, more should be focusing on trying to get the client to focus on the future, because the compliance stuff, keeping everything up to date, and that again is a 2-way relationship, because you can't do their work if you're not providing the information and keeping your records up to date and accurate. And and I think just, you know, it's that, as you said, that's a relationship. It's a 2-way relationship, keeping in touch, working together, having clear defined scope. So what the client's going to do, what's their role, and what's the accountant's role. So as I said, accountants aren't magicians, but a good accountant should be minimizing your tax, communicating with you to make sure you know when your deadlines are, keeping you compliant, and then helping you forecast forward, and offering to help you with the forward-looking, planning forward. And so, you know, sometimes you can't lead a horse to water. So, you know, I think from our perspective, we like to be proactive and try and forecast. All of our business clients in May or April, May, as soon as March ticked over, we're looking at, okay, this is where you're at. This is the tax you paid. What's the next 3 months going to look like? This is what your tax looks like. How do we minimize your tax? And so you already know, it can be within 5% or even you know exactly what tax you're going to have to pay and when you're going to pay it. So then you go, cool, I've got some spare money. I'm going to update my website. I'm going to buy some more inventory. I can actually use the money. I can actually go on holidays. I've got my tax sorted and I've got spare cash. I can acquire a new business, whatever it is. Because no matter what, if you want to get bank funding or access to capital, you need accurate and timely financial information.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, you're going to struggle to raise money from anybody because you can't show them the financial position.
Yeah. Well, that's why you guys obviously are accountants, and young James there looks after us as well. But the thing about you guys is it's super proactive. We'd spoken to James a couple of times in the last couple of years about, when's the right time to buy a car, what's available to us. And when there was some, some extra things released by the government around, incentives to buy cars. And he was straight onto it with us. Now's a good time.
Yeah.
And so we took that advice, and it's worked out really well for us as well.
Yes,
so I think
there's a reference for James.
That's
our recommendation.
He's a gun.
Absolutely. He's an absolute gun.
He's a young Spencer Boy.
Yeah, he totally is. He's very passionate about what he does, and he cares about his clients. So I think, but it's also, Morgan, it's up to you, up to you guys to reach out as well, and he'll get back in touch like a proactive accountant will do.
Yeah.
If you've got an accountant who doesn't reply to you within, we all try to reply within a couple of days. If your accountant hasn't replied, or at least give you a phone call, then you don't have the right accountant.
Yeah.
Listen to that, people.
Yeah, because I get people saying, accountant, send them an email, phone call, never get a return, and that's a challenge for me. I need to make sure that I keep delegating and, as my business grows, but I've got awesome people, the team. So really it's up to the accountant to try and, I'll get back to people and I need to keep working on that. But in the end, James and the team are there. They're always responsive. They'll be back to you within a day. And they're up to the latest, information and can answer a question really quickly and easily to help you make decisions.
And I said that to Morgs. I loved, and this is so important. I know we can go anywhere with this, but I just think if people can get this, because I think, like you said, the two certain things in life are death and taxes. And I had just done a call and we were talking about financial literacy for people in 2020. And I think more than ever, and more than ever, Spence, I think that the world is we're moving to automation, like business and side hustles are becoming the norm. And I truly believe that it's not a matter of if people start a business or let's say a side hustle, like a side venture or network marketing, whatever it is, it's a matter of when. And I think that it can and will get a lot of people into trouble, like Morg said, because they're coming from that employee mindset. Free money, where they might not, or they might not even, they might have done I can't remember how you do your own tax. E-tax? Is that still around?
Yeah, e-tax. Yeah.
E-tax, right? And it's great.
MyGov portal.
Yeah, there you go, right. MyGov portal. But I think that it's so important to have an accountant if you're looking at, even as a family, I think if you have a home and other things. So the fact, and my biggest thing for me, I remember with Acute when I worked there as a receptionist, it was always, you were super proactive. And truth be told, and you know this, because I think I bumped into you in a bar and that's how we came back under Acute. But when we started in network marketing, we had taken advice, rightly so and amazingly, from, $1 million earners in the company. And that we said, well, who are your accountants? Because you kind of want to go with people that want network marketers. Yeah. Anyway, so we went and had this meeting with this firm. I think you probably don't even remember this story. And I sat there with the the director of the firm. And I hadn't worked in accounting since I was 20, turning 21. So at that stage, 5 years. Yeah. And I was like, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And he was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, they're so reactive. They're not proactive. Yeah. And then I bumped into you and I will never forget.
Then we left and he sent us a 4-figure bill.
Yeah. For doing nothing. Yeah. But I bumped into you, Spence, and I'll never forget this. I said, Spence, oh my God, I can't believe I was 25. And I said, we've just started network marketing and rah. And I just have concerns about my accountant. And you were like, well, you know what to do. Like, trust your gut, Anna. You were like, trust your gut. We'll always look after you. Come back as a client almost, but trust your gut. And even like as a girl that was into like woo-woo and personal development. The fact that an accountant was telling me, trust your gut, like do what's right for you. Like they might be right, they might not. Anyway, we came back under, and ever since, for us, I'm proud as 7 years into network marketing, we are so across our tax. We pay our tax early. All of our BASs are up to date because of a good accountant and a great relationship with 2A and everything else.
Yeah.
Which
agreed.
So you go.
No, I said agreed, and that's why it's up to you. Up to the person to make sure that they are seeking out someone who that they can work well with and have a relationship with. Because if you're not getting the advice, you're not, your gut's telling you this is not right, then move on.
Yeah.
And I think for our business is all referrals. So, and which shows that, we obviously do a good job because our business is growing and it's based on referrals. People speak about us, which is a great testament to the team, and we want to keep doing that. And, and hopefully we can keep growing, and it's all through referrals, looking after people.
Yeah, that's what we run off pretty much as well.
Yeah, totally.
Like referrals are the best way to do business because people know, like, and trust someone there, and a referral from them is better than some billboard or Facebook campaign or something like that as well. Hey, but one thing I wanted to ask you as well is what I've heard. What is auditing insurance and how important is it? Should people have it? Should an accountant have it? Like, it's more of a personal question, but
So audit insurance is you pay a fee, and it's not expensive, an annual fee. And then if you get audited from the ATO, then the accountant's fees are covered by the insurance.
Yeah.
So if you've got a GST review, and let's say the accountant's fee is $3,000, well, you don't pay that. The insurance company pays the accounting fee. So in order to get it, the accountants need to have registered. You can get individual insurance, but normally an accounting firm would sign up with like an Australian accountancy insurance company, and then roll it out to their clients. So that's one thing that we're looking at rolling out. I've got the documents. I just need to roll it out because I think the ATO are going to come down really hard. There is the government aren't just giving out free money. They're going to get gnarly once this smoke clears from this COVID. And they're going to be hungry because people might have been desperate and claiming things they shouldn't, or not paying tax in line, and that gives everyone others an unfair advantage. The ATO is there to make sure everyone's got a level playing field. Because if you've got a competitor who's not paying their tax, that means they're making more money than you are, and and that's unfair. And plus, they need the money to keep the country running. So, we, as accountants, as Acute, we certainly don't have a high number of audits. We have very rare audits because obviously the ATO know who we are. They've got algorithms and they can search to see who's overclaiming, who's not. And so there will be accountants out there that'll be on the radar. So if you're a client of an accountant who your gut tells you that something's not right, you're going to be an audit target. That whole accounting firm and all their clients are going to be audit targets.
Yeah.
So there's no silver bullet out there. You got to pay your tax, yes, minimize it, but sometimes someone can get audited. Normally there's a reason why the ATO are auditing. So it can be random sometimes, but they're running a business too. They're not going to go out there and just audit people for no reason. Someone's given them a reason to audit you, whether you've overclaimed something, which is outside the average. If you're an employee, if you're a business, your turnover's great, but your profit's not high. You're claiming big GST credits, which doesn't make sense. They'll have indicators. They're not going to waste their time searching and hunting people for no reason.
Yeah, because I'm sure for a lot of people, that's like the greatest fear for a lot of people. Even if you're squeaky clean, the stress that comes along with being audited as well. So it could be something that is worthwhile people looking at as well.
I feel that I feel people that's sort of unnecessary why people worry so much because you get war stories, and someone tells you, but why, if someone says that, it was a horrible experience, it's like, well, why were they auditing you? Like, it's very rare that ATO is going to come through and go through every single transaction, every single document. Normally they'll come and audit you for one particular reason. It might be GST, it might be PAYG, it might be Office of State Revenue for payroll tax, it might be stamp duty. They don't come and just go through everything. And if anyone has had that, there's got to be an underlying.
Okay, you've done something.
But those stories are out there.
You'll have it,
and I think it works in the ATO's favour for people to be scared. And and there are penalties to make sure people stick to the rules, because otherwise, as I said, people getting an unfair advantage because they don't pay their tax like the people who do it properly are. They're getting an unfair advantage. It's not an even playing field. So they actually need to keep the playing field even to make sure we're not getting ahead by not doing the right thing.
And again, I'd offer to that it's like, have a good accountant, and you like, because I never stress, like, and because it's that relationship. We do the right thing. You guys are amazing at what you do. So it's just like, I carry zero stress. And I even know if we were, it's like, well, you guys will like, I don't know.
Sort it out. And if the ATO ever calls any of our clients, I said, don't speak to them. Never. Say, speak to my accountant. That's what you got an accountant for.
Yeah.
That's what our job is. So anytime an ATO ever calls a client, never speak to them. Just say, you need to speak to my accountant. Because you don't know who they are. There's so much scamming going on.
This is so big. Why is
the ATO calling you and you got a tax agent? You say, I pay a tax agent to speak, they can speak to you. They're the experts. They're the ones that look after my tax and my accounting affairs. Bring them.
It's like when the police call me and tell them to speak to my lawyer.
Yeah.
Because I do that all the time.
I don't know.
They rock up at the door. No, but that is such good advice. And I think that people need to act, because in fact, just to offer, because at the moment, the scams at the moment are so high. I had one the other day, but I'm just like, yes, kind sir, goodbye. But it is. So to safeguard yourself, get a friggin' accountant. But then that should be the default. We'll speak to my accountant, bye, hang up. And because you're right, because I know for us, all of our mail, everything, like contact details is you guys. It's Acute. So we kind of get it second.
And so why would the ATO be calling you? So that's the thing, like, who are you? Why are you calling me? Bring my tax agent. And then if you need to speak to my tax agent, will tell me that I need to call you.
Yeah.
Because who are you? You could be from anyone.
Yeah. Now, staying on this, because I think, like, obviously, because you said, and it's my concern, I think more so, I was going to say, I've got this I'm so grateful for my work history of accounting firm and then politics, because it's this really interesting dynamic where I got to see companies and share, like, everything, basically finances, and then left that to go into politics. And you said it, you were like, the government's going to be hungry, the ATO is going to be hungry. I keep saying to Morgan, the government can't keep printing money. Like, that's just not going to happen. It can't prop the nation up forever. It just can't. So what do you see as someone deeply entrenched in business and obviously dealing with the ATO, with everything that's gone on and still happening with COVID? What are some things that you forecast, or you're sort of getting some of your clients ready for, positively or negatively, in the next, say, year? Yeah,
I think, we're always planning forward to make sure clients have got their tax money put aside. And so at the moment, if you've got the ability to defer tax until September, basically blankets have been affected by COVID. So 2019 tax, if it's not paid and people are stressing they haven't paid it, it's a matter of contacting the ATO, getting a payment arrangement, or at least deferring your tax until the 14th of September. The ATO are doing that, and then work out a payment arrangement going forward. So, the ATO are being very lenient with payment arrangements because they totally understand it beyond some people's circumstances, some business circumstances. So then, to protect yourself, if you're a company or a business out there that's owed money, you need to be really careful, because what terms you've allowed those people. I think at the moment, at the end of this year, there's going to be a lot of receiverships, a lot of insolvencies, because right now the ATO is not pushing the button on chasing people who haven't paid. They will eventually, and then also companies who haven't been getting paid aren't pursuing who owes the money yet because of the court system. And then there's some rules out around, put statutory demands out. It's got to be over 20,000. It's all been delayed. So comes October, November, December, there's going to be a lot of pain out there. Wow. And it will flow through to everybody in some shape or form. So I think if you are running a business and you're owed money, make sure that you're talking with who owes you the money and how they're going to repay you and how that's going to work. Make sure you're trying to collect funds as you can now. And make sure planning, cash flow is king. Make sure you're planning your cash flow. The tax, whether it's payments to the banks. Because eventually, as Annie is saying, something has to give. Like, there's no such thing as free money.
We've got some of our mentors keep saying they're like, a storm is coming, like get prepared. And even they're sort of more coming from the position, Morg's Jen. They're sort of saying almost, and I don't advise this. I mean, I always advise this, but it's not like I'm saying this is what's going to save anyone whatsoever, but it's like, look to start bringing in an income somehow. If it is in network marketing or selling some wares or selling a property, I don't know, but
I agree. And there's always opportunity, you know, I've seen businesses pivot now that didn't have a digital strategy. So they were bricks and mortar, and they'd always had their thought about it, you know, think about it. They were forced to do it. And now they're booming because they still have a good product. People used to walk in the shop to buy it. Now they're happy to buy it online. Yeah. So there's, you know, this is forced, you know, from the banks, all the banks employees are working at home. For years, banks have tried to work out how to work remotely. Within 2 weeks, they all went remote. That probably cost millions and millions of dollars over the years to try and work this out. They were able to do it in 2 weeks. All these companies were. A lot of even small businesses were able to go digital, put people remotely at home.
The education system.
And that's from a need, became desperate. There's a need. You needed to do it in order to continue doing business. So it's amazing what people can achieve and business can achieve when you have to do it. When there's no other choice, you do it. Yeah. And so I think it's the same thing for employees out there. If you've lost your job, there's magnitude of ways these days that you can actually earn a living and get some income coming in. So I think, you know, I would say do your research, listen to podcasts, you know, follow your passion and give it a crack.
I love you say that. And because this whole thing about following your passion, I remember asking Peter, especially the late Peter, who I used to say to him, well, how can I earn the back of, like, why do companies earn so much and employees earn so little? That's where my love of business started. And I remember he used to be like, ask them. And I remember the one thing that they all always said was, like entrepreneurship solves a problem. And I think there's tons of problems in the world to be solved right now. And number two, it was follow your passion. It was always like, what do you love? And I remember starting a little online business, or not little, but like possibly an online dating website when I was 18. So I was working at Acute, because it was like, well, the problem is that back then, like 18-year-olds, it's worse today. We're just kind of like not really dating. It was just like chill, not even Netflix. And then my passion was kind of that, was like dating and personality and everything.
So Morg, did you swipe right, left, or whatever you swipe?
There was no swiping, mate. I don't even think there were touch phones. The Nokias, mate, the old 3210s.
We always say, oh my God, imagine if we had to date in 2012, like we would be screwed.
Hey, mate, just one question that's just I know we're about to wind this up, but you mentioned like all these receiverships and insolvencies and things like that. And, you know, all these essentially were zombie companies that without the government assistance probably would have evaporated anyway. Yeah. Is that with people with share portfolios, should they be concerned about that or just buckle in and ride it out? Or
it depends on what's in your share portfolio. Yeah. So hopefully you've got a diversified share portfolio and it's not invested in penny dreadfuls. That they will be affected. So I think having how you lose money is panic and sell. Or not diversified enough, so you're all in one company. Or you're forced to sell because you run out of money and you've got to sell your portfolio at a shit time. Like it's not a good time to be. It's a good time to be buying. Not a good time to be selling if you don't have to, unless you have to because you need to make ends meet. So
I remember sitting down with you one time and you explained to me as well that I think I was about 6-7 years after the last GFC, and you had the grass, and you're like, all the people who panicked and sold in the GFC, if they were able to hold on, not only would they have recovered everything, they'd actually be further in front.
Absolutely.
You guys also taught us, because obviously Spence, you do like the business. I could be wrong now. Like, I don't know if the dynamics have changed, so forgive me or correct me. But you run the whole company, but the taxation side of it. And then Chris runs the finance side of it.
Yeah. So I'm the business advisory, tax advisory, and then Chris is the wealth management side of the business. Yeah.
And that's how, so I remember coming in 7 years ago and sitting, and Chris taught us about dollar cost averaging, which was amazing. But I love that it's always, so the way I look at it now, and we've got our shares is, but for us, and you've said it 100 times on this podcast, it's, well, not 100, but like money in the bank, have cash is king. Have cash. So that was our focus. And that was Chris, he sat with us. He's like, get money in the bank first, like save. And then you can start to diversify, which I love.
Absolutely. And then getting some advice or doing your research, because there's no silver bullet in investing. It's slow and steady. It's all about strategy. You know, there's some people who get lucky and pick a company and hold on to that company. Zoom. There's, who does that? It's very, very rare. The people who create wealth, it's just slow and steady. It's making sure you're paying low fees and a diversified strategy, and it's just consistently, continually adding to that, minimizing your tax, minimizing there's low interest, making sure things are structured correctly, and then just chipping away at it. There's no silver bullet. There's just no get rich quick schemes. There's just no such thing.
Yeah, I love you said that.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, resilience, and making sure that you're managing your downside. Managing the risk, because someone tells you about this company and then you're all in on that company and it doesn't work out. Bang, there goes your capital that you've worked hard for. So there's no silver bullet. I think making sure if you're going to invest in something, you go, what am I willing to lose? And it depends on what we're talking about here. If this is something you're actively running, obviously more conviction than that because you've got total control. If you're investing in a little mining company that's everyone's saying is great, well, you've got no control over that. So what are you willing to lose to put into that company? Not, you can look at the upside. What's the downside? And if that's going to set you back for years to come, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
There's plenty of opportunities.
There is. And it's slow and steady, the stock market up until this last, up until when was it?
He's got the chart on the wall.
He's got the chart on the wall.
I got charts everywhere. I'll show you the chart.
Yeah, get it. I remember going into the offices and yeah.
And so that top blue line is the Australian stock market, since 1965. And if you invested $100 and left it, didn't do anything with it. Today, or as of end of 19, it's worth $202,000. That's 11% return, 11.7% return if you did nothing.
Yeah.
Everyone tries to buy and sell and the transaction costs and, they get fear and greed. They buy more, they sell at the wrong time and they don't get the return the market's going to give them. You just have to, but then there's reasons why, because maybe they've invested too much and they need the money. So they had to crystallize it at the wrong time. So,
well, someone told me like day trade, 95% of day traders lose more than they make.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course.
Warren
Buffett, I'm going to get it wrong, Spence. You might know this story better or the facts, but I know that he had that $1 million bet. I know it was $1 million bet. And I think it was 10 years or maybe 5 years. I think it was 10.
10 years.
10-year bet against like day traders, but
essentially, yeah.
And then over his like long-term safe shares and
top 500.
Yeah, and he cashed out. He won. He won $1 million, and he took it, and I think he donated it in 2005. And
he says, where would he put his money for his kids? He said, put it in an exchange traded fund with Vanguard in the market, and just leave it. And it will compound. You've got to be able to stomach the volatility though. But if you don't need the money, it's long term. I wouldn't be investing in the stock market unless you had a 7-year term. A long term, because you never know when the next correction's around. In January, everything was looking great. December, the market was pumping. Next minute, the market dropped 30%. If you just put all your money in and thinking it's going to continue on growing like it was, no one ever knows. No one knows when there's a next correction and how bad it's going to be. But one thing is the world keeps spinning, money keeps spinning, and the stock market's not going anywhere. The banks aren't going anywhere. And, diversification is king, and diversification across the globe, because now it's easy to invest around the world. You don't have to just stick to Australia. You can have an investment portfolio that has companies, a global portfolio very cheaply.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I love that because I was saying to Moggs the other day, so I don't know, you probably would know about the so it's like online micro investment apps. So Raize, Spaceship. And obviously it's, again, I think everyone's moving to the network marketing model, but it's referral based. And so if you sign someone up, you can get a $5 or a $10 put into. I think it's amazing. I think it's great for people that.
Obviously, the thing with those ones is you are adding your own money continually, small bits over time.
Small bit.
Yeah.
But again, you've got to have that long term. So everyone that's listening, if you have it, you have to have that long term mindset.
And with that, I think that's a great, as long as the fees are really low and there's no smoke and mirrors, and it is dollar cost averaging for you, so it's forced saving and it's putting it into a portfolio automatically for you in a very, very diversified way. I think it's a great thing, because if you're leaving up we're all busy, everyone's very busy. You might have the best intentions, before you know it, 6 months is gone and you haven't done what you've planned to do. And then you put all your money and then there's a correction. So that kind of dollar cost averaging, out of sight, out of mind, just keep sticking to that strategy. But just making sure that the provider who's providing to is very low cost, and the strategy, behind the scenes, you actually are owning the shares, you actually are the holder of those shares, just to make sure, make sure that you're not going to blow up your capital.
I remember Chris explained it. I remember Chris explained it to us, and Morg's always still like, we'll be out like boozing, and someone might ask, and he's like, let me gather around. Like, but
give me my one piece of financial advice that I'm not actually qualified to give you.
That Chris taught him. But it was always, and I loved this theory, but this is what he said to us. And I remember he said, so it's like when it's dipped, it's on sale, share's on sale. Yeah. And when it's high, I can't remember exactly now, but when
totally true. But you got to have the conviction, because the whole media and everyone's saying the world's going to end. The sky's falling. And you need to have the conviction to say, no, it's not. It just, now everything's 30% cheaper than it was before. I was willing to buy it before when it was 30% higher. Why am I not willing to buy it now when it's 30% cheaper? And it goes against human psyche, the fear and greed, And so when the market's pumping, you've got the greed factor kicking in, because you fear of missing out. You really want to get in on it. And then when it's crashed, then you're fearful like everyone else. Oh no, I don't want to go to the stock market. And that's, you to reverse that. But that's hard to do. It's human nature.
Well, I would say turn off the televen first and foremost. I know you.
Rubbish anyway.
Yeah, it's rubbish. I'm like, I don't watch the news. Ever since I left politics, 7 years ago, I don't watch the news.
I'd rather watch the Wiggles with my kids.
Yeah. And I mean, that's
I learn more.
yeah, you would know. And I just there was a last thing around the micro, but there was a young woman I'd read, right? So people share it all online. There's these, applications, essentially, like Raize and Spaceship are the two ones that I know of and like, because I know that they're audited by ASICs and everything. Awesome. But one girl had said, I said to Morgan, she'd put money in just before, I think it was like January, I saw a comment, and she's like, I hate this app. I can't believe you're promoting it on someone's wall. And she's like, I put $300 in, and COVID hit essentially, and I lost 50%. So I pulled it all out, and I was like, that's someone that shouldn't be invested. Like, I was like, just put your money in the bank.
Go to the casino.
It doesn't understand, it's a long-term thing. That's why you need to have a 7-year time horizon.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. It's like when you buy a house, you didn't buy a house thinking you're going to flip it in a year. Like, good luck with that. The transaction cost, investing is long-term. Yeah. Unless you're speculating. If you're speculating because you've got a good thing and you've got inside knowledge, but that's speculating, that's gambling. As you say, more, let's go to the casino. You can double your money within 5 seconds.
Put it on red.
Lose it all as well. So,
I love it.
Awesome. Hey, well, look, that was an hour just there. Goes quick. I always get shocked by how quick it goes. But I know you've got, we've just had into financial, so you're probably flat out. So we're going to let you go. But just thanks again so much for coming on and having a chat. And we're going to put all your contact details and where people can find you in the show notes and on our socials and things like that as well. If people are out there looking for just a solid accountant, good financial advice, they'll be able to find you through all that as well.
Thanks, Morg. I love what you guys are doing. And well done. Keep it up. You're certainly helping people with their future. So I think it's a great thing.
Thanks,
buddy.
We're going to have, if you're listening and you're like, you loved this conversation and you want more, message Morgs and I, because I'm like, Spence, too bad. I'm going to not haul your services, but essentially, what I love about these conversations is Morgs keeps saying, we'll get off. And he's like, people would have to pay so much money to, but it's like, you guys give so much, all of our amazing guests and you especially. And I think
So much value.
one of my passions is financial literacy. And I think you are a king of it. So I would love, if you have loved this podcast, but you have more questions or you want to dive deeper into saying, let Morgs and I know, and we'll get Spence back on and have more of a conversation. Because I think the more that we can bring people like you out to more people, that no one gets accountants on podcasts, the more powerful and we can make change, because they're going to change their world, which can change the world. So
absolutely.
Thanks,
Sounds awesome.
Spence.
Thanks, Spence.
Have a lovely day. Good to speak to you.
Thanks.